Welcome to the Ask Faleskini podcast with a guest. I'm proud to present Dan Portik from Cleveland, Ohio. Dan is a best-selling author. At an early age, he found himself drawn to music, and then later on in life added sales and marketing to his skill sets. As a Christian businessman owner for over 3 decades, Dan has had extensive experience in running successful marketing and video production companies. Recently, he has started to share his knowledge of sales, marketing, and online negotiation through authoring and co-authoring of series of books. Some are currently published and several are in the works. His latest book, The Secret Online Door, outlines in details all the successful online techniques he has used over the years to reach and negotiate with almost anyone at any level. Dan, please tell us more about yourself. What is your story?
Well, first of all, Peter, thank you so much for having me on your show. This is an honor. I heard a lot about you, and that's fantastic. So basically, I've been in the sales and marketing business for, almost 35 years. I've owned an ad agency prior to my current company for 20 years. And around 2009, we kind of reinvented ourselves, and we went off and turned into a video production group because we found a nice niche going in between full service advertising agencies and freelance video production people. And that's where we created BBS Film Productions, right up there. That has been our business since then. Probably about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, I was introduced, I kind of introduced myself to a gentleman named Tom Hopkins, and that kind of spin me off into the author world. I wrote a book with him and it became a bestseller, and then all of a sudden I became an author. And I had a business coach at the time. He says, okay, now what's your next book going to be? So we did that for a couple of years, and the latest book is really an overview of all the different techniques I use over the years to save money for the average person, really. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell from square one to here. Hopefully that gives you what you need.
Yeah, that is great. I just recently read your latest book, The Secret Online Door. I really like the title, and I also like the content. It's everything that you said average person needs, but I also think that business person would also find this very useful.
Yes.
Could you share us how to set up everything that we need, like you start in the first chapter, what needs to be done to set up everything that you enable yourself to be able to, let's say, walk or reach through this secret door, as you call it?
Right. So the secret door is really a kind of like it's an imaginary secret door. It's a door that you can go through to meet people and to negotiate online. It's not really a door, but it's a pathway, I guess would be the best way to put it. So one of the first things you need to do to be able to negotiate with anybody online is to have a profile, a professional profile, one that is believable. And most people, which surprise me that are online, don't take that as serious as they should. Anything from negotiating to trying to find a job to anything like that, you have to have a profile that's believable and to the level of the individual that you're dealing with. So that's kind of like phase one in any negotiation. And some of the ways you can test this is go look at somebody online that is successful, look at how they do their profiles. Many of them have handlers that make that for them, but you can emulate them through using these techniques and looking at what they do to get what you need. Then once you create your profile and it looks good, you test it out. You find people that are friends and people and have them go online, have them look at your online presence and give you honest opinions of what's out there. Some people are very surprised at what's out there. They don't realize it, So that's kind of phase one to any type of negotiation.
You talk about advantages and disadvantages of using the secret door in the second chapter. What do you think are the disadvantages? Because the most of us just see advantages. If we can use something like this, so potent and with such a huge reach, and not just reach, but you can also pick who you want to choose. That is something special with the tools that you're describing. What would you say that are the disadvantages of using this secret door technique?
So I think one is what we're doing right now. You're unable to see in many cases the people you're negotiating with. You cannot communicate verbally if you're doing like an email, so you may not see them going or wow, or whatever it might be. So the facial emotions are a big part of it. And the other one I think that's pretty big is you need to think on your feet when you're negotiating in a real-time environment versus online. It allows you to have the time to think about what you want to say, maybe even do a little research before you even answer a question. So I think those are the two big ones that come into play. And now with Zoom, that even becomes a smaller issue because we're doing that right now. So that's my thoughts.
What are the reasons that you think you described them in the fourth chapter that people don't use that? Because this is really important tool, and most of us already using it. Of course, not to the extent of your expertise, but we at least try to use part of it. What do you think are the main reasons people do not use this secret door?
I think one of the main reasons is fear. Fear of success, fear of failure, fear of anything, fear of the unknown, I guess, is the main one out of everything. So that's one thing. That's if they do know some of these techniques. If they don't, they're just not aware that they're available. Many people think that reaching someone of a high stature is difficult, but you'd be very surprised how many people are very accessible at a very high level. So I think that's probably the main thing. That barrier goes up. The it used to be a 100-pound phone. You pick the phone up, it costs 100 pounds, to make cold calls. Now it's the send button. You hit the send button, it's like you're hitting a nuclear warhead to go out. It's a fear that comes into people's lives.
Would you agree that for a business person it's almost a must to understand and then use this secret?
Of course, yeah. From a business standpoint, you definitely need to have an understanding of negotiating and these online techniques. There's so many of them, and over the years I've learned. I've probably saved. I know I've saved at least $1 million over the years just in negotiating and dealing with people, and it's just added up. And I know that's it's something that really is important for a business person.
Why do you think there are not more companies that would offer knowledge like this? How to use that? Why this knowledge is not readily available? There are some YouTube videos about this, how to use it, but you really structure everything in a book, and it's a very, let's say, how-to or hands-on book. And also you give in every chapter, you give at least one example how you use it. Why do you think that this is not more popular? Why more people do not discuss this?
Well,
why is this knowledge still hidden?
Yeah. So I think in America, at least in our states over here, money, 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 make the money, make the money. They're not as concerned about saving money as making money in the business world. I would say there's, thousands of people over here, on either podcasts or whatever it might be, how to be the best you can be at what you do. And that's great, but it's kind of a saturated market. And the other side of that is you need to be able to save too, and be able to negotiate properly. We're all doing it every day, and most people don't. I guess they're more into the build the wealth, and everything else will fall into place. So that's what I see.
Okay, so I'll be a bit sarcastic. So if everyone would be using your technique, the inflation would stop because nobody would pay our sticker.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So you're talking then common sense, like you need to know what you want in order to get something out of let's say this secret door. You also write about organization, how to get organized before you start utilizing these secret doors. For every task, you need to understand how you're gonna go, who you're gonna contact, and similar. And then you dedicate a special chapter just to social media secret doors. Can we discuss this a bit more?
Sure, sure. And I would say 90% of these secret doors are social media or related to social media in some way. But I would think, you know, depending on what you're going after, if you're going in a professional environment, LinkedIn is probably one of the most effective ways to reach anybody for any negotiation. There are things called in-mails, and that's for their paid memberships, where you can actually go in and reach anyone at any level as long as they're in your somewhat network, first, second, or third level, and you can get a lot of people in there fast if you do it right. Facebook, and Facebook is also business, but it is mostly for, you know, consumer oriented products. Twitter not so much. I don't use that as much. I find that Facebook's probably the most effective because you can tag people in there. You can get to people easier through Facebook, especially a company page for like a customer. I did one, for example, where I had a lawn service come out. They did a terrible job on my lawn, and I tried to reach them in every direction. And I finally just took a picture of my lawn and I put it on their Facebook business page. I had a call in 15 minutes. So just little things like that, you know, they didn't monitor it and they left it up there. And next thing you know, I got a call from one of their higher ups to, you know, fix the problem. So.
Okay, you're also talking about being honest and just knowing what you need, but don't push it. How is that? Or I'm also very interested in how to know how far you go, because putting bad service image like alone in your case is for me just pushing a bit a boundary. How to know what is good, but it paid very well for you. So where to take, how to understand the calculate risk, how you go about it, when do you push it, and when are you nice to the people?
Sure. So first, it depends on who you're talking to, and the way you have to look at this is a lot of people go into a negotiating talking to somebody here, and they're just an hourly worker. Not that that's a bad thing, but you know, they're a worker that comes in every day, punches the clock, and they're there just to make some decisions go away, your problems go away, and they're not really concerned about the company. The goal, first of all, is to get to here, and you get to the person that has that little switch that can change your cable to a free month or do things that you need done. And that's usually a supervisor position. Once you get to that position, it's professional, and they always say you get more bees with honey than you know, sour cream or whatever. You know, and that's the truth. You don't necessarily have to go in and belittle anybody. I found, you know, if you go in and just get them on your side, VPs and people at a certain level, they'll deal with you at a different level. They'll deal with you professionally, and they usually put somebody on it to get it done. So for me, I don't really have to push too much. I always do the research prior to it. And if I see I'm getting resistance here, I said, hey, can you do me a favor? I know you're busy. Can you do me a favor and just maybe put me through to your supervisor? I think I have some other things I'd like to discuss with them that I think could be effective to make this go away for you.
Did I understand that correctly? You don't jump the rank immediately. You
right.
start with the person that is in charge of support, and only if you don't get what you believe that you deserve, you I'll say call a rank. Try going to supervisor or higher. Is that correct?
Right. And I'll be honest with you, when I'm online doing this, I'll sometimes just go directly to the CEO of the company. And I've done that for Goodyear. I've done that for big companies. And you won't get a call back from them or an email, but you will get one from an executive supervisor. You've bypassed all those people down here, and they basically say, my boss's boss's boss told me to call you. You know, and when you hear that, you're golden. At that point, you can do whatever you want, and all they want to do is get that off their desk.
So, okay. And yeah, you also mentioned one really useful tip in your book, that you have to CC in all the superior officers.
Correct. So if you're in a long-term negotiation, something that's, you know, like a proposal for a salesperson or marketing or something, oftentimes you'll get a marketing manager in there that's new, and they may have their own way that they want to do things. But if you're dealing with like the CEO, and this manager wants to, sometimes they'll try to get their own people in, or they'll try to cut out whatever you're doing, or undermine you, and that does happen. The safest way to keep yourself in the game is just whenever you're dealing with the guy down here that's doing that, you just copy everybody above on the emails or correspondences that you're doing. That way, everybody's in the loop. They see everything when you do it.
I don't remember if it's in the book or not, but would you if your problem gets solved correctly and in timely manner, would you send then a thank you letter to all these people also? And would you also give them a positive review for solving your problem?
Usually I give it to the lower person. I give it to the person that's on the front line, and I'll say, you did a really great job. Thanks so much. And I would say probably the next one up, CEO, he probably won't get it. It usually goes to their assistant, at that point, their executive assistant. So, I've seen that as a, major factor. But the people that I'm directly working with, I'll give one or two. It's usually an email. Hey, thanks so much for your help. I greatly appreciate it. And the nice thing about all that is now you're in the system. Next time they hear Dan Portik, in any response, all those notes are in there. And that makes a big difference too.
Okay. And then we just discussed how you do it. But then a really important thing that you also wrote in a dedicated chapter about is nothing is ever out of warranty or too big to ask for.
Correct.
Can we touch this subject a bit more?
Sure. So I guess the way to look at that is a company, for example, they have warranties in place for the average person. They don't want a barrage of people coming in and saying, oh, this is going to be, I want this because it's out of warranty. And most people, it keeps everybody in check. But I went back with things 10 years and the warranty is only 1 year. And I went to not that guy down here, but you go to the person up here. I did it with a set of headphones at the time. It was like one of these headphones. I don't know if you read that in the book, but it's like, it was 10 years old.
I read.
Yeah, I found it in a box. It was broke. And I'm like, you know what? I want to do something with this. So I took these, I think it was about $150, maybe 200. I'm not sure exactly the number, but that was around there. And I sent it. I actually packed them up and I FedExed them to the CEO of the company. And I said, hey, these were defaulty the minute I got them. I know they're old. What can you do to help me out with this? I'd really like to use your product in the future and tell people about it. So there's always has to be that thing that, you're going to be an advocate for their product. I'd say within 2 weeks, I got the latest version of it. They were worth, I don't know, somewhere between $700 or $800, just mailed back to me. Thank you for your patronage. We appreciate it. Here's the latest version. I hope they work best for you. So, yeah. You
also write that a lot of times you don't need to return the faulty item because it's too expensive to ship.
Exactly right. Yeah. So we've done that before with products that we just, you're on with customer service, not here, but up here. And you're talking to them. They're like, oh, you know what? It's cheaper to just throw it out. Just throw it out. We'll send you a brand new one. So I've had that. Items that range, somewhere in the $100 to $200 range or lower. Usually that occurs.
And usually the ones that cannot be mended, because you write about T-shirts and hoodies in your book. So they just let you keep the hoodies because the color was off, and then you gave it to charity, if I remember correctly.
Correct. Sorry. Okay.
Then you dedicated the whole chapter of the book to using the secret door for employment.
Right.
Can we touch that? That is also, I think, something that will be more and more useful in the following month if the IT companies continue to lay off people.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So how do you recommend that people go about it, and how they should use social media for their employment?
Well, I think LinkedIn is a gigantic tool for that. I mein, it's so important to use that when you're doing your outreach to people for employment. I guess what happens is there's always a sea of resumes that come in, and they go to a certain person. They go to like HR, and they have to filter through these electronic resumes, and they look for specific criteria and things that match to get in for an interview. So you just avoid all that. You go completely around it. Go right to the CEO. Do it through LinkedIn emails. Tell them you want the job. I think more importantly than as importantly as your qualifications is your ability to want the job, and the ability to your want for the position. I know when I hire people, I want to make sure that they want to be here. They want to do things, and they're bold and they want to take chances. And what better way than to have, someone that's looking for a job go right to the CEO and ask for that? It works. If it's not the CEO that answers, it's going to be the next person down, usually.
Yeah, and I believe that the person also demonstrates these interpersonal relationship skills if they jump a rank and said, okay, I want to do it. It's not just their motivation, but also they know, for example, if there's that person is a salesperson, they know that when they will be doing sales in the future for the company, that they're able to reach people.
Right, Peter. One more thing with that is you have to have all the ingredients in place. Mm-hmm. You can't just send them an email that says, hey, I want a job, and then they go look at your LinkedIn profile and you're drinking a beer on a table in a backyard somewhere. You have to look the part. You have to follow those priorities, that we talked about, your personality, your profile has to be perfect. Your message has to be perfect. There can't be spelling errors, no grammar. It has to be to the level of the position and the person you're talking to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you discussed that higher you go in the rank, the less mistakes are something that will be tolerated. And
exactly right.
There is also they use special lingo that you must be aware of, or
right.
At least. And you also recommend something that I think is a common sense, but it's often overlooked, that the social profile, even if you go for LinkedIn, you should have your Facebook or Instagram page cleaned up. You call it like that. So yes. You already mentioned that standing around with a beer in your hand, that might not be the best.
If you're a rock star and you have that persona, sure, it's okay. But I guarantee somewhere on the line, if you look at their website, it looks professional, so there's variables to that, but most people, you want to keep a nice uniform personal brand through everything that you do.
Okay. And then one of my favorite subjects about how you published your book. You explained everything, how you use the secret door to become a best-selling author. Right. Can we touch a bit about that? You mentioned earlier just that it's something that you're doing for a past couple of years, and you've been extremely successful. Basically, you just stepped directly from zero to hero through your secret.
I tried. I'm trying. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So, yeah, how I went about that process. My first book became a bestseller with a gentleman named Tom Hopkins. Tom Hopkins is, for those of you who don't know him, is probably one of the most influential sales trainers of his era, 80s and 90s. I would put him on the same level with like Tony Robbins and Grant Cardone and some of those people. Mm-hmm. He was the master of closing. He knew how to do everything in that area. So I had I was using his techniques online, and I said, you know what? I'm going to reach out to him and say, I'm using all your face-to-face techniques through these online techniques that we're using for closing, and they're working. We're closing sales as much as $20,000, never talking to the customer. So that was something that was important. So I reached out to him on LinkedIn. He got right back to me and he said, hey, I'm very interested in, talking with you about this. I'll send it over to my VP. They'll go through it all. And if we want to do it, we'll get back to you. So they came back probably a month later. And we started writing the book and put it all together. So we get this whole book together, we launch it. And and this is something I really haven't told anybody else, but I'll tell you how it's worked. Before it actually launched, I went into because we had it published. There was a publisher that wanted to do it. I went into, there was this group. It was like a promo group that they're called BookBub. And if you get into BookBub and you get a feature of your book in BookBub, it almost automatically becomes a bestseller. It'll sell thousands of copies within an hour by just putting it out there in front of them. But it's very difficult to become a preferred, like one out of, I think, every 50 or 100 books that actually make it to the level of even getting thought of being it, get in. So what I did is I put our book in as like, here, consider us. But then I went to every one of the owners of BookBub in LinkedIn, and I sent this letter to them saying, hey, we're very interested in becoming, a promotion that you have right now. We plan on doing a marketing campaign around it. We plan on driving traffic to your website by using our techniques that we have into your program. And I said, we really appreciate it. We have, Tom Hopkins is in this, he's got his own draw and we'll be able to make this happen. So I sent it to probably 8 different owners, the whole board basically. And I'll say within a week, we got the approval to do it. So it actually worked out really nice. We got an email back. He goes, you're approved. Everything's good. And so we became I became a best-selling author that way, by just boom, right in there. It shot up the #1 on Amazon and in 2 different countries, and that was it.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's every author's dream to do it.
Right. So BookBub is a place to go. And the other thing I think is if you partner with somebody that's very successful in their industry, Tom sold millions of books. I think I can't remember the amount that he sold. He's got 25, 30 books out already. So for me, it was really nice to be able to go in and partner with this guy. I think he's only partnered with 5 people in his entire career. So I felt honored and privileged to be able to do that with him.
Okay. You continue with the last chapter, that the devil is in the details. Can we go into more specifics of this chapter? How business people should consider their details? What is important and what is not important? You said that most of the most successful people outsource the whole production and marketing somewhere. However, that a lot can be done on business people can do a lot if they're on the budget on their own. Can we talk about this a bit?
Yeah, so I think, well, for example, with some of the books that I've written, I was able to outsource many of the things that, like we had talked about while we were off the camera, we talked about flow of a book and whatnot. So I'm not the best at that, but the people I partner with are. And they were able to take everything that we do in all my books, and it's kind of like ghostwriting of some sort is what they call it. And they were able to put the flow to it. And I think that happens with almost everything that you're doing in business. For example, like if you want to create your personal brand or your business brand, use a professional company that knows how to develop that. If you have certain things like we talked about, the beer on the table, somebody drinking that, things like that, someone may overlook, but someone from the outside in looking at that might go, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't fit your brand. Look at what other people are doing. So I think those things are important to invest in. The legwork part could be being able to set up your own campaigns to put things out to people. In other words, through social media, once you get that brand in place and your message in place, you're able to go out and reach people through some of the techniques that we've been talking about with that professional brand. So I think that's something that a lot of people, you see that in TV commercials a lot too. People spend a fortune on the commercial, not the commercial itself, but the broadcast part of it. They'll put it all these different places, but they make terrible commercials and nobody wants to watch them because they look super cheap. You see that in car dealers all the time. They have their kids on there and they think they're really cute, but in reality, some of that stuff just cheapens the message. Yet they're paying, hundreds of thousands of dollars for the time to put it out there. They might spend $50 on to put the thing together with a little camera.
What's your estimate? Because you were in marketing and you're still in production. What's your estimate for the US? What would be the average price to set everything up by professional so that your secret door could be functioning?
Yeah, good question. I think part of it depends on the size of the company. So small companies, I would consider investing 3 to 5% of your income, maybe more, maybe 10% in creating something. A company that's doing about $1 million to $5 million, I'd put at least 100,000 or 200,000 into your brand or your look.
Mm-hmm.
If you're getting into the larger companies, some of the really big companies, they already have that in place, but you usually get parts of those. But if you're in the mid-sized companies, I'd put at least $1 million or $2 million into your advertising budget for just developing the techniques and the brand that you're going to need to get in front of people. And that also changes by whether you're consumer or B2B. Consumer, obviously, you're going to want to put more in there because they got TV and you got things of that nature. But B2B, I would say, that's a realistic number. 1 to 3% of your, adjusted gross income.
Mm-hmm. That is a great insight for our listeners. I think.
Great.
Okay, so you finished the book with "It Doesn't Hurt to Be Bold." Can we talk about that? How bold you should be, and when is I say when this bold is just exaggerated? When we should stop and know our place?
Well, bold and annoying are two very close, very closely related, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, and the way I've always thought of it, it's not what you say, but it's how you say it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and your frequency, that's another thing that's a factor. Being bold to me is not being afraid to send a message to someone that is way beyond what you think you could talk to. Someone that I've sent stuff to Donald Trump and Donald Trump's son. They didn't get back to me, but I'm going to take the chance and I'm going to send it out, and whatever it might be. So once you do it a couple of times, it just gets easier. It's not so bad. But the key is you have to follow all those steps and make sure you have the whole key is to have something that they want that will benefit both of you, when you're dealing with something at that level. And so anyway, going back to the subject, I think bold is one thing. Annoying is another. When you start being repetitive and you're sending, they get the first one, they get the first message. If they want to get back to you, they will. And there's things called the online cold shoulder. You're going to get where, sometimes it goes into spam, things of that nature. And the thing you have to do with that is be bold enough to go back and reach out one more time. Say, hey, I just want to make sure you got the emails or anything else that we need, can we discuss, or, are there any questions you might have about something? But you don't want to go too far in that situation.
I would like your comment on my experience. My experience is that I have about 20,000 something followers on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And if I reach out to people with up to 200,000 followers, they will 100% get back to me.
Mm-hmm.
The more followers they have, 500,000 and plus, then the probability is dropping down. Is that also something that is worth considering? That building a follower base is important because people also consider you based on the number of followers you have.
It doesn't hurt. I think it's absolutely important to do that. There is a point where you have to look at the type of followers you bring in. Some of them maybe to get to the point where they start, once they're in your first line of LinkedIn, they can post on your board, they can do things like that. So there was a way to get around that. So what I automatically do, the minute someone gets in with me, I unfollow them in LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. So I have very few people and very few people know that when they're in LinkedIn, that once you go in and reach out to somebody and you become in their first line, you're automatically following them. Mm-hmm. So anything that they're posting goes right on your front area. So that I think alleviates that, but so between that and also, just kind of watching who you're letting follow, that usually weeds out some of the not so desirable people.
Okay. We're gonna put a link to Amazon in our description so that people can read the book. I think it's a must read for everyone that it's in a business, or also if you're a consumer. I think everyone benefits of this book. If you're not living on a deserted island, you need to read this book.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there anything you would like our listeners to take from this interview? Any quick tips or trade secrets that you can share with us?
Sure. Yeah. One main thing I would say is fortune favors the bold. And that's the saying that's been out forever. And I don't think you have anything to lose by reaching out to anyone out there. Life's short. We have between the two numbers on the tombstone. We're the dash, right?
Mhm.
So my thought is you have nothing to lose and everything to gain by reaching out to anybody you want.
Thank you, Dan, for all the insights. Thank you for being
Thank
my
you.
guest tonight.
I
And
appreciate it. Thanks.
yeah, and looking forward for your new books. You mentioned that you have new books coming out.
I do. Another one. It's a fiction book, actually. The next one. It's about killer deers, believe it or not.
Uh-huh. Okay, thank you very much for that.
Thanks so much.